I thought the courtroom would end my marriage quietly, but it shattered my bloodline instead. I walked in ready for divorce, clutching my evidence, my dignity, my last breath of hope. Then I saw my husband holding my sister's hand like a promise he never kept to me. Laughter echoed behind the judge's bench, and my name became a joke. My knees shook, my heart burned, my future collapsed in one cruel second. But when my lawyer suddenly froze, stared at a hidden file, and whispered about the ICU, I finally understood this trial would decide who survives tonight here. I never imagined betrayal could have a sound. Not a scream, not a slap, but a soft, intimate laugh echoing across a courtroom. The moment I stepped inside Family Courtroom 3, my eyes went straight to the front row. And that was when I saw them. My husband. And my sister. Sitting side by side. His hand resting on her knee. Her fingers woven through his like they had practiced this for years. My breath collapsed inside my chest. I stood frozen at the entrance while the clerk announced our case number. The judge hadn't even entered yet, but my life had already been sentenced. Divorce hearing. Custody. Property division. And apparently, a public execution of my dignity. I walked forward slowly, every heel strike echoing like a countdown. My husband, Daniel, finally looked up. He smiled. Not the nervous smile I expected. Not guilt. Not shame. It was calm. Polished. Victorious. My sister, Lena, tilted her head toward me and whispered something into his ear. He laughed. Quietly. Cruelly. I sat beside my lawyer, Mr. Chin, gripping my evidence folder so hard my fingers went numb. You knew. I whispered through trembling lips. He didn't answer yet. Because Lena suddenly stood up. She didn't wait for the judge. She turned toward me instead. Sorry, she said softly, just loud enough for the entire courtroom to hear. I didn't realize you'd be so emotional today. My stomach dropped. Daniel cleared his throat dramatically. Your Honor, he said as the judge entered and everyone stood. Before we begin, I would like to clarify a few false accusations my wife has submitted. Wife. Still. That word burned. He turned toward the judge, then back at me. She claims I had an affair. Lena crossed her legs. I could see the faint sparkle of the diamond bracelet on her wrist. The one I bought her for her birthday. Daniel smiled. I didn't cheat, he said calmly. I fell in love. A murmur rolled through the courtroom. I felt every stare land on my back like knives. With someone who understands me. Supports me. Protects me. He looked at Lena. She lowered her eyes shyly. Perfect performance. And unfortunately, he continued, my wife has become unstable since discovering our relationship. She followed us. Recorded us. Harassed my partner. Partner. Not sister. Partner. My hands started shaking. You're lying, I whispered. But my voice drowned inside his confidence. Lena suddenly raised her head. I tried to stop him from telling the truth, she said gently. But he insisted. I'm sorry, sister. Sister. The word felt poisonous coming from her mouth. Tears welled up in my eyes against my will. The judge frowned slightly. Do you have evidence to support your claims? He asked Daniel. Daniel's lawyer stood. We do, Your Honor. And we also request the court to consider the plaintiff's mental condition during custody review. Mental condition. I felt my heart slam violently against my ribs. My son. They were aiming for my son. I shot a desperate glance at Mr. Chin. He still hadn't spoken. He was staring at his tablet. Unmoving. Not blinking. Mr. Chin. I whispered. Nothing. Counsel for the plaintiff, the judge called. Slowly, impossibly slowly, my lawyer lifted his head. His face was pale. Not nervous pale. Not tired pale. It was the color of someone who had just seen death walk past him. Your Honor, he said. Then he stopped. His lips parted slightly. And froze. The courtroom waited. Daniel frowned. Lena's smile faltered for the first time. Mr. Chen's fingers trembled as he reached into his briefcase. He pulled out a thin black file folder. Not mine. Not the divorce file. It had a hospital label on it. A red ICU stamp burned through the center. My heart skipped. What is this? The judge asked sharply. Mr. Chin swallowed hard. This file, he said quietly, was delivered to my office 15 minutes ago. Daniel's jaw tightened. Lena leaned forward. Mr. Chin opened the folder slowly. So slowly it felt intentional. Like he was afraid of what would escape. He glanced at me. His eyes were filled with something I had never seen before. Fear. Pure fear. This is a medical emergency record, he said. From the ICU. The courtroom fell into a strange, unnatural silence. And the patient listed inside, he continued. My breath stopped. Is directly connected to both the defendant and the woman seated beside him. My heart slammed. Daniel stood up abruptly. That's irrelevant, he barked. But the judge raised his hand. Mr. Chen's voice dropped to a whisper that still somehow reached every corner of the room. The attending physician marked this file as legally urgent. Because the patient made a recorded statement, naming who caused her collapse. Collapse. ICU. Recorded. My body turned cold. Mr. Chin looked at me again and whispered the words that split my world in half. She is your mother. For a moment, the courtroom disappeared. All I could hear was blood rushing through my ears. My mother. ICU. Recorded statement. I stood up so suddenly my chair scraped violently across the floor. That's impossible, I whispered. Daniel's face had gone completely blank. Lena's lips parted, but no sound came out. The judge struck his gavel once. Order. Counsel, explain. Mr. Chin inhaled shakily and turned his tablet toward the bench. Your Honor, this morning at 6:42 a.m., the plaintiff's mother was rushed into the emergency department after collapsing in her apartment. She was admitted to ICU with acute cardiac distress. My chest tightened. She was conscious long enough to request a legal recording, he continued. A quiet gasp rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's lawyer shifted uneasily. She stated she feared for her life. And she insisted the statement be delivered directly to this court, in case something happened to her. Something happened to her. The words cut deeper than any accusation. The judge nodded slowly. Play it. Mr. Chin tapped the screen. My mother's face filled the courtroom monitor. Her hair was messy. Her skin gray. Oxygen tubes framed her mouth. But her eyes were still sharp. Still strong. Still, my mom. My name is Sun Mei, she whispered. My legs almost gave out. I am recording this because I believe my collapse was not an accident. A murmur swept through the room. Daniel stiffened. Lena's hands curled into fists. I discovered that my younger daughter, Lena, has been having an affair with my son-in-law, Daniel, my mother continued weakly. The courtroom exploded in whispers. My sister's name. Out loud. On record. From our own mother. I confronted them last night in Daniel's office, she said. I asked them to end it. I begged them to think of my eldest daughter, and of the child. My breath shattered. My son. Then her voice trembled. Lena screamed at me. She said I was useless. That the company would be hers soon anyway. Daniel stood behind her and told me to stop interfering. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. The judge glared at him. Sit down. The recording continued. I told them I would expose the affair to the board and to the court today, my mother whispered. Her eyes glistened. Minutes later, I felt dizzy. My chest burned. I collapsed in the corridor outside his office. The courtroom went deadly silent. There was a cup of coffee on Daniel's desk. Lena handed it to me. My heart stopped. Coffee. She said it was for calming my nerves. My fingers went numb. I don't know what was in it, my mother whispered. But I know. I never made it to the elevator. The screen shook slightly, then steadied. If anything happens to me, I want my eldest daughter to know the truth. Her gaze lifted toward the camera. Toward me. Protect my grandson. The video ended. The silence afterward felt heavier than sound. My entire body trembled. Lena stood up suddenly. You can't prove that, she screamed. Her perfect voice cracked. My sister. My blood. My enemy. Daniel jumped up beside her. This is emotional manipulation. She has heart problems already. You're twisting a medical episode into a crime. Mr. Chin stood. His voice was steadier now, because power had quietly shifted. Your Honor, the ICU record includes toxicology results. The room froze. Toxicology, the judge repeated. Yes, Mr. Chin said. Trace amounts of an unprescribed beta blocker were found in the patient's blood. Enough to induce cardiac failure in a vulnerable patient. Lena's knees buckled. She grabbed Daniel's sleeve. You said it wouldn't show up, she whispered. Not softly enough. Gasps exploded through the courtroom. Daniel yanked his arm away. Shut up, he hissed. Too late. The judge leaned forward. Bailiff. Two officers moved closer. Mr. Chin continued calmly. The ICU physician provided a sworn statement. The medication was crushed and mixed into a beverage. Coffee. The word screamed inside my skull. And CCTV footage from the company corridor shows the defendant and Ms. Lena entering the office minutes before the patient collapsed. Daniel's face finally cracked. Sweat beaded along his hairline. This court is not a criminal court, his lawyer said nervously. The judge nodded slowly. No, but it is obligated to report suspected criminal conduct. He turned toward the bailiff. Contact the district prosecutor. Lena collapsed into her chair. No, 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 she began shaking. Daniel stared at the screen like it might erase itself. But the real punishment hadn't even arrived yet. Mr. Chin turned slightly and faced the judge again. Your Honor, the ICU file also contains a signed witness addendum. I looked at him. My heart pounded wildly. A nurse overheard a phone call made from Ms. Lena's mobile phone inside the office immediately after the coffee was prepared. The judge raised his eyebrow. What was said? Mr. Chin took a breath. Then read the line slowly. It's done. She drank it. If she collapses, the court and the board are finally out of the way. The words burned into my ears. I felt something inside me shift. Not pain. Not shock. Cold clarity. This was no longer just about an affair. This was about my mother's life. And my sister had crossed a line that could never be forgiven. The judge removed his glasses. That single, quiet motion silenced the entire courtroom. I stood without realizing it. My legs were shaking. But for the first time since I walked through those doors, I wasn't afraid of falling. I was waiting for justice. Based on the evidence presented, the judge said slowly, "This court will immediately suspend the divorce proceedings pending criminal investigation." Daniel turned sharply. "What?" The judge's voice hardened. "This case now involves suspected intentional poisoning, witness intimidation, and abuse of corporate authority." Lena started crying. Not soft tears. Ugly, panic sobs. She grabbed Daniel's arm again. "You promised me. You said we'd be fine." He shoved her away. Hard. "Don't touch me." The courtroom gasped. The man who once held my hand through labor had just thrown my sister aside like trash. The bailiff stepped forward. "Ms. Lena, please stand." She shook violently. I didn't mean it. I only wanted her out of the way." The words slipped out. Clear. Uncontrolled. Unforgivable. The judge closed his eyes for half a second, then nodded to the officers. "You are instructed to escort Ms. Lena and Mr. Daniel to the prosecutor's office for formal statements. Effective immediately." Daniel snapped. "This is a setup. My wife planned this." I laughed. It came out broken. Sharp. Almost hysterical. "You planned my life," I said loudly. Every head turned toward me. "You planned my marriage. You planned my family. You planned my silence." My voice rose. "But you didn't plan my mother surviving." Daniel froze. For the first time, fear finally reached his eyes. Mr. Chin stepped beside me. "Your Honor," he added calmly, "there is one more matter relevant to the family court." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Mr. Chin lifted another document. A notarized emergency amendment to Mrs. Sun's will, signed in ICU early this morning." Lena's head snapped up. "What?" My heart jumped. The patient revised her previous inheritance plan. Daniel's lawyer tried to interrupt. The judge raised his hand. "Read it." Mr. Chin opened the page. "Due to breach of trust, emotional abuse, and endangerment of life, I revoke all shares, voting rights, and beneficiary status previously assigned to my younger daughter, Lena." Lena screamed. "No, that's mine." And Mr. Chin continued, his voice steady and merciless, "All holding shares of Sun Medical Group shall be placed in trust under my elder daughter, for the benefit of her child." Me. The room erupted. Board members sitting quietly in the back exchanged stunned looks. Daniel's face went ashen. The company. The real prize. The reason behind everything. My sister sobbed uncontrollably. "You can't take it from me," but it was already gone. The judge signed the immediate recognition order. "The court accepts this emergency amendment." The gavel struck. Final. Lena collapsed to the floor. Daniel stood frozen between two officers. He looked at me. His voice broke. "I loved you once." I walked toward him. Slow. Unshaking. "You loved my position," I said quietly. "And you loved how easy it was to betray me." The officers placed their hands on his arms. As they turned him away, he whispered, "Please, tell your mother I'm sorry." I didn't answer. Because forgiveness belongs to the living, not to those who tried to kill. 3 days later, I stood outside the ICU. The familiar smell of disinfectant wrapped around me. My emotional support. My anchor. Dr. Liu stepped out. "She's stable," he said gently. "You were very lucky." I nodded. Tears finally fell. Inside the room, my mother squeezed my hand. "You did well," she whispered. "No," I said softly. "We did." That night, my son curled into my arms. For the first time in months, he slept without nightmares. Mr. Chin texted me. Charges were officially filed. Attempted poisoning, conspiracy, corporate fraud, and the board had removed Daniel permanently. As dawn touched the window, I realized something quietly beautiful. My marriage ended in a courtroom, but my future began in a hospital corridor, with a heartbeat that refused to stop.